Hey, I'm glad you're here. Whatever today brought you, the worries, the noise, the unfinished thoughts, you don't need any of that right now. Those things can wait. They'll be exactly where you left them tomorrow morning, I promise. Tonight, you don't have to figure anything out. You don't have to be productive or useful or ready for anything. You just have to be here. So if you want, let your shoulders drop a little. Let your breathing slow down. There's nowhere to be right now, nowhere at all. And when you're ready, I'll take you a long way back, further than history books usually go, to a time before writing, before cities, before agriculture, when the first humans were learning, for the very first time, what it meant to be human. There's something deeply settling about going that far back, about realizing how long people have been here, on this same planet, under the same sky, trying to make sense of things. Long before any of what we call civilization existed, there were people sitting around fires at night, watching the same stars you can see tonight. So let's go there together. No rush. We have all night. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, first appeared in Africa approximately 300,000 years ago. That date comes from fossil evidence discovered at a site called Jebel Irhoud in Morocco, where skulls and stone tools were found in sediment layers that could be dated with precision. The bones were anatomically modern in most respects, though with some features that would look slightly different from a person alive today. 300,000 years is a number that is genuinely difficult to hold in the mind. To put it in a different scale, if the entire history of modern humans were compressed into a single 24-hour day, agriculture would not appear until 11:40 at night. Writing would appear at 11:52. Everything we conventionally call history, ancient Egypt, Greece, Rome, all the way to now, would fit into the last 8 minutes. The vast majority of what it is meant to be human happened in the dark before any of it was written down. For the first 200,000 years or so, Homo sapiens lived entirely in Africa. The continent was not a single uniform environment. It contained forests, grasslands, deserts, coastlines, river valleys, and highlands. Early humans moved through these environments, adapting to each one, developing different tools and strategies for different conditions. The genetic diversity within Africa today is greater than the genetic diversity of all the rest of humanity combined, a direct consequence of the fact that our species spent the overwhelming majority of its existence there. At some point, somewhere between 60,000 and 70,000 years ago, the estimates vary depending on which genetic and archaeological evidence you weight most heavily. A relatively small group of people left Africa and began moving into the rest of the world. Small is worth emphasizing. Current genetic models suggest the founding population that gave rise to all non-African humans may have been as few as a few hundred to a few thousand individuals, a single community, crossing most likely through the region that is now the Sinai Peninsula or across the southern end of the Red Sea, at a point where lower sea levels during the last glacial period made the crossing significantly shorter than it is today. From that small group, every human being on Earth outside of Africa is descended. The migration was not a single event, not a conscious decision to go east. It was gradual, generational movement. Groups following animal herds, moving along coastlines where food was accessible, spreading slowly into environments that no human had ever inhabited. Children were born, grew up, had children of their own, and died, all within a territory their grandparents had recently entered. No individual experienced the migration. It happened across hundreds of generations. Within roughly 20,000 years of leaving Africa, humans had reached Australia, a crossing that required open water navigation of at least 60 to 90 kilometers across what is now the Indonesian archipelago. The boats, if that is the right word, have not survived. The people arrived. We know this from the archaeological record and from the genetic continuity of Aboriginal Australians who descend from those first arrivals and whose ancestors had been on that continent for at least 50,000 years before Europeans arrived. 50,000 years in one place, one continent, one unbroken thread of human presence. Think about what that means. The people who live in Australia today, whose families have been there for 50,000 generations, have a connection to place that is almost impossible to comprehend from the perspective of most modern societies. When modern humans left Africa and moved into Eurasia, they were not entering an empty world. Other human species were already there. Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis, had been living in Europe and Western Asia for at least 400,000 years by the time modern humans arrived. They were not primitive brutes. They buried their dead, sometimes with objects and possibly with flowers. They made ochre pigments. They crafted complex tools from flint. They cared for their injured. Skeletons have been found showing healed fractures and disabilities that would have required years of support from others to survive. They had large brains, on average slightly larger than ours. For a period of somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 years, modern humans and Neanderthals coexisted in overlapping regions of Europe and the Middle East. We know from ancient DNA analysis that became possible only in the last 15 years that the two groups interbred. Not occasionally, with enough regularity that the genetic signal is clear and consistent. People alive today who are of non-African descent carry approximately 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA in their genomes. Some populations carry more. The exact sequences vary by region, and some of those Neanderthal-derived sequences appear to have been retained because they were useful. Genes involved in immune function, for instance, that helped modern humans adapt to diseases present in Eurasian environments. Around 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals disappeared. The reasons are debated. Climate change, competition with modern humans for resources, disease, interbreeding to the point of absorption, or some combination of all of these. The honest answer is that we don't know exactly why they vanished. What we know is that they did, and that they left something of themselves behind in the DNA of every person of European or Asian descent alive today. In a literal biological sense, Neanderthals are not entirely gone. They persist in fragments scattered through the genomes of billions of people. There were also others. In 2008, a small fragment of finger bone was found in Denisova Cave in Siberia. DNA analysis revealed it belonged to a previously unknown human species, the Denisovans. We have almost no skeletal material. We have their genome. We know they interbred with modern humans as well. People of Melanesian and Aboriginal Australian descent carry up to 5% Denisovan DNA. People of Tibetan descent carry a Denisovan gene variant that helps them survive at high altitude. A direct inheritance from a species we didn't know existed until 15 years ago. The human family tree is not a simple line. It is a web. Branches that seemed separate turned out to have touched. Somewhere around 40,000 to 45,000 years ago, something changed. The archaeological record begins to fill with evidence of symbolic thought. Art, jewelry, musical instruments, objects that had no purely functional purpose, things made to be meaningful rather than useful. The oldest confirmed cave paintings currently known are in the caves of Sulawesi in Indonesia. A painting of a pig, a Sulawesi warty pig to be precise, has been dated to at least 45,500 years ago. On the same cave wall, stencils of human hands. People pressed their palms against the rock and blew pigment around them, leaving the outline of their hands preserved in ochre and charcoal for 45,000 years. In Chauvet Cave in southern France, paintings dated to around 36,000 years ago cover the walls with extraordinary skill. Lions, rhinos, bears, mammoths, horses. The artists understood perspective, used shading, deliberately exploited the natural contours of the rock surface to give their subjects a three-dimensional quality. This is not early art in the sense of primitive or tentative. It is accomplished art made by people who had been practicing and developing technique for an unknown period before these particular walls were painted. We don't know what the paintings meant. We don't know if they were ritual, narrative, decorative, or something else entirely. The people who made them left no written explanation, but the act of making them, of choosing to go deep into a cave with only handheld torches and spending hours rendering an animal in careful detail on a rock wall, implies a relationship with the world that goes beyond immediate survival. It implies imagination, story, the desire to create something that would outlast a single moment. In Germany, from roughly the same period, a carved figurine called the Lion Man was found in a cave in 1939. It depicts a human body with the head of a cave lion. It stands 31 centimeters tall and was carved from mammoth ivory. Carving it would have taken a minimum of 400 hours of careful work. It depicts something that does not exist, a creature that is partly human, partly animal. It is the earliest known representation of a mythological being, a creature of the imagination made solid. Someone, 40,000 years ago, had an idea and spent 400 hours making it real. That impulse, to take something that exists only in the mind and give it form in the physical world, is not a modern invention. It is as old as we are. For most of human existence, people lived as hunter-gatherers. This is not a way of life that is easy to reconstruct from the outside. The phrase hunter-gatherer has accumulated a set of associations, primitive, precarious, struggling, that the evidence does not entirely support. Studies of the few remaining hunter-gatherer societies in the 20th century, as well as analysis of archaeological remains, suggest that hunter-gatherers typically worked fewer hours to meet their basic needs than people in agricultural societies. The Kung San of the Kalahari, studied extensively in the 1960s, spent an average of 12 to 19 hours per week obtaining food. The rest of their time was spent in social interaction, rest, play, and activities that had no immediate economic purpose. One anthropologist described them as living in an original affluent society, not wealthy in material goods, but rich in time. Hunter-gatherer diets were varied. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans consumed dozens of different plant species and a wide range of animals depending on season and location. Dental analysis of prehistoric skeletons often shows less evidence of nutritional deficiency than skeletons from early agricultural populations, where dependence on a small number of staple crops created new vulnerabilities. This is not an argument that hunter-gatherer life was idyllic. Infant mortality was high. Injuries that would be trivial today were potentially fatal. Violence between groups occurred, though its frequency and character varied enormously. Life was genuinely uncertain in ways that are difficult to fully appreciate from the perspective of modern food systems. But it was not the grim, desperate existence that earlier generations of researchers assumed. It was a way of life that sustained human populations across the entire planet for for hundreds of thousands of years, in almost every environment Earth offers. The people who lived through the last glacial maximum, the peak of the last ice age, roughly 20,000 years ago, survived average temperatures 4 to 7 degrees Celsius colder than today. Massive ice sheets covering large portions of the northern hemisphere and dramatically different distributions of plants and animals. They did not just survive, they continued to make art. They continued to bury their dead. They continued to trade objects across hundreds of kilometers. A shell found at an inland site 500 kilometers from the nearest ocean tells you that people were moving and exchanging things across significant distances, even in the coldest periods of the Ice Age. Human adaptability is not a recent development. It has been the defining characteristic of this species from the beginning. In 1994, a Kurdish shepherd in southeastern Turkey noticed something unusual in a field on a hilltop called Göbekli Tepe, which translates roughly as Potbelly Hill. What he found and what subsequent excavations over the following decades have continued to reveal is the oldest known monumental architecture on Earth. Göbekli Tepe dates to approximately 11,500 years ago, roughly 7,000 years before Stonehenge, roughly 6,500 years before the pyramids at Giza. It consists of large circular enclosures, each containing massive T-shaped limestone pillars up to 5.5 meters tall and weighing up to 10 tons. The pillars are carved with detailed reliefs of animals: foxes, snakes, wild boars, birds, spiders. Some of the pillars appear to be stylized human figures with arms carved in low relief along their sides. The most striking fact about Göbekli Tepe is not its age. It is who built it. The people who constructed this site were hunter-gatherers. There is no evidence of permanent settlement at the site itself, no evidence of agriculture, no evidence of the kind of social organization that archaeologists had previously assumed was necessary for large-scale construction projects. The standard model, first agriculture, then settlement, then monuments, appears to be wrong, or at least incomplete. Someone organized the labor to quarry, transport, and erect these massive stones without the infrastructure of an agricultural society. Current estimates suggest a workforce of at least several hundred people would have been needed. Where did they come from? What fed them while they worked? What motivated the project? The honest answer is that we don't know. The site has no clear domestic function, no storage facilities, no obvious habitation. The current interpretation is that it was a ritual or ceremonial center, a place people traveled to from surrounding regions for purposes that were religious, social, or both. A gathering place, a pilgrimage site. If that interpretation is correct, it suggests that the impulse to build places of shared meaning, places that required collective effort and served purposes beyond immediate survival, preceded agriculture by thousands of years. The spiritual or communal life of early humans was not a product of civilization. It may have helped create it. Some researchers have proposed that the demands of maintaining and feeding the workforce at Göbekli Tepe may have been one of the pressures that pushed people in the surrounding region toward agriculture in the first place. The monument didn't follow from settled life. It may have helped produce it. The hill has been deliberately buried. At some point, around 8,000 years ago, the enclosures were intentionally filled with rubble and soil, carefully, systematically, and the site was sealed. No one knows why. It waited, buried on a hilltop in Turkey, for 10,000 years, until a shepherd noticed the stones. Agriculture was not invented once. It emerged independently in at least 11 different regions of the world, at different times, from different plants and animals, developed by people who had no contact with each other. The earliest evidence of plant cultivation comes from the Fertile Crescent, the arc of land stretching through what is now Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, and southeastern Turkey, beginning around 11,000 to 12,000 years ago. Wheat, barley, lentils, and other plants were brought under cultivation there. At roughly the same time or shortly after, rice and millet were being domesticated in China, sorghum and pearl millet in Africa, maize and squash in Mesoamerica, potatoes and quinoa in the Andes, and other crops in other places. Each of these transitions was slow. The difference between a wild plant and a fully domesticated crop takes many generations of selection, choosing the seeds with the most desirable traits to plant the following year, year after year. The people doing this did not have a concept of what they were doing in genetic terms. They were making practical decisions about which plants were most useful. Over hundreds of generations, those decisions accumulated into profound biological changes in the plants themselves. Wild wheat, for instance, has a fragile seed head that shatters easily when ripe, an evolutionary adaptation that disperses seeds naturally. Domesticated wheat has a tough seed head that doesn't shatter, making it far easier to harvest. That characteristic emerged through selection by farmers who preferred plants whose seeds didn't fall to the ground before they could be collected. No single person planned this. It happened across generations of practical choices. The transition to agriculture was not uniformly beneficial. Early farming populations show evidence of increased rates of infectious disease, a consequence of living in closer contact with domesticated animals and with each other in settled communities. Skeletal evidence shows higher rates of nutritional deficiencies in early farmers compared to contemporary hunter-gatherers. The work of farming, particularly in its early forms, was physically demanding in different ways than hunting and gathering, and the dependence on a small number of crops created new vulnerabilities to harvest failure. And yet agriculture spread, partly by contact and adoption, partly by the expansion of farming populations into territories previously occupied by hunter-gatherers. The higher caloric productivity of even early agriculture supported denser populations than hunting and gathering in the same area. More people could live in a given space. Those populations, over time, moved outward. Within a few thousand years of its emergence in the Fertile Crescent, farming had spread across Europe. Within a few thousand years more, it was present across most of the inhabited world. The world that existed before agriculture, the world of the vast majority of human history, ended not with a single event, but with 10,000 years of slow replacement. Most of the time, no one was watching. It just happened, generation by generation, field by field. The first city on Earth was probably Uruk. Located in what is now southern Iraq, on the banks of the Euphrates River, Uruk grew from a small settlement into a major urban center during the 4th millennium BCE, roughly 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. At its peak, around 3,100 BCE, it may have housed between 40,000 and 80,000 people within its walls. For the time, this was an almost incomprehensible concentration of human beings in a single place. What made a city possible was the combination of surplus agricultural production, enough food to feed people who weren't farming, and the administrative systems needed to manage that surplus. Uruk developed both. The city contained monumental temples, craft workshops, a complex water management system, and the beginning of something that would change human civilization permanently: writing. The earliest writing was not poetry or history or correspondence. It was accounting. Clay tablets found at Uruk dating to around 3200 BCE, are covered in marks that record quantities of goods: barley, oil, animals. Who had what? Who owed what? How much had been received? How much distributed? The first written documents are receipts. Bureaucracy preceded literature by several centuries. From these administrative origins, writing gradually expanded. By around 2600 BCE, the cuneiform script used in Mesopotamia had developed enough flexibility to record language itself, not just numbers and commodities, but words, sentences, stories. The oldest known works of literature are Sumerian. The Epic of Gilgamesh, which survives in multiple versions on clay tablets, tells the story of a king of Uruk who seeks immortality after the death of his closest friend. He travels to the end of the world. He finds what he is looking for. He loses it anyway. He returns home and looks at the walls of his city, walls he himself had built, and understands, at last, that this is what endures. It is one of the most human stories ever told. And it was written down in a city that existed 4,500 years ago, in a language that no one spoke for thousands of years, recovered from clay tablets buried in the desert. The person who wrote it down is unknown. The king the story is based on may have been a real person. Inscriptions suggest a king named Gilgamesh ruled Uruk around 2700 BCE. The story that gathered around his name, whatever its origins, asks questions that have not changed. What is a life for? What survives us? How do we live knowing that we won't? People were asking these questions in the world's first city 5,000 years ago. They are still being asked tonight. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built approximately 4,500 years ago. It stood as the tallest man-made structure on Earth for 3,800 years, until the completion of Lincoln Cathedral in England in 1311 CE. No other building held the record for anything close to that long. The pyramid contains approximately 2.3 million stone blocks with an average weight of 2.5 to 15 tons. The precision of its construction is remarkable even by modern standards. The base is level to within 2.1 centimeters across its entire 230-meter length. The four sides are aligned to the cardinal directions with an accuracy of 0.05 degrees. How it was built is, in its broad outlines, reasonably well understood. The workers were not slaves. This is a misconception that has been decisively overturned by archaeology. A workers' village has been excavated near Giza, and the evidence suggests a well-organized, well-fed permanent workforce supplemented by rotating teams of laborers who may have come from across Egypt as a form of national service. The workers were buried near the pyramid with care. Their tombs suggest they were respected. The papyrus that provides the most direct evidence of pyramid construction was found in 2013. It is the logbook of an official named Mera, who oversaw a team of workers transporting limestone blocks by boat along a canal to the pyramid site. It is the oldest papyrus ever found, and it describes, in matter-of-fact administrative language, the logistics of the project. How many blocks were moved, when, from where, by whom. Mera was not recording history. He was doing paperwork. He had no idea his logbook would survive 4,500 years and become one of the most important historical documents ever found. But Egyptian civilization was not only pyramids. For most people, life centered on the annual flooding of the Nile, which deposited the fertile silt that made agriculture possible in an otherwise desert environment. The flooding was so central that the Egyptian calendar was organized around it. When it failed, as it occasionally did due to climate fluctuations far upstream, The consequences were severe. Egyptian farmers grew wheat and barley, kept cattle and sheep, fished the Nile, and lived in mud brick houses and villages that in some cases have been continuously inhabited for thousands of years. Their concerns were recognizable: the harvest, the health of their children, the favor of their gods, the fairness of their landlord. One of the most moving things in all of ancient history is a series of letters found in an Egyptian tomb from the Middle Kingdom period, roughly 4,000 years ago. They are letters written to the dead, ordinary people writing to deceased family members, asking for help with problems the living couldn't solve: a property dispute, a difficult illness, an unjust accusation. The letters were placed in the tomb in the hope that the dead could intervene. People 4,000 years ago missed their family members. They asked them for help. They left them letters. The gap between then and now is not as wide as the numbers suggest. There was a civilization, roughly contemporary with ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, that no one knew existed until 1920. The Indus Valley Civilization, also called the Harappan Civilization, flourished across what is now Pakistan and northwestern India from approximately 3,300 to 1300 BCE. At its peak, around 2,500 BCE, it was the largest of the three great early civilizations, covering an area larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined, with a population estimated at between 1 and 5 million people. It had cities with planned street grids, multi-story buildings, standardized brick sizes used consistently across thousands of square kilometers, sophisticated drainage and sewage systems that would not be matched in Europe until the Roman period, and an as yet undeciphered writing system of roughly 400 symbols. The largest cities, Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, had public buildings, large granaries, and what appear to be communal bathing facilities. The famous Great Bath at Mohenjo-Daro is a precisely constructed waterproof pool, roughly 12 by 7 meters, that may have been used for ritual bathing. The engineering of its waterproofing, layers of brick, gypsum mortar, and natural tar, is technically sophisticated. And then it declined. Over several centuries, beginning around 1900 BCE, the cities were gradually abandoned. The writing system fell out of use and was forgotten. By 1300 BCE, the civilization that had dominated a subcontinent for 2,000 years had effectively disappeared. Why it declined is not fully understood. Climate change, specifically a shift in monsoon patterns that reduced the river flows the civilization depended on, is currently the leading hypothesis. There is relatively little evidence of large-scale violence or invasion. The decline appears to have been gradual, with populations dispersing rather than being conquered. People simply left, moved elsewhere. The cities emptied over generations. The Indus script has never been deciphered. We have thousands of inscribed objects, seals, tablets, pottery, and we can read none of it. We do not know what language was spoken. We do not know the names of any rulers, priests, or ordinary people. We do not know what the civilization called itself. Everything we know about it comes from physical remains alone. This is a civilization of 2 million people that lasted 2,000 years, and we cannot read a single word they wrote. There are almost certainly other civilizations in the same position, substantial, complex, long-lasting, and now completely silent because their writing has been lost or never deciphered, or because they left no writing at all. What we know of the ancient world is a small fraction of what existed. Most of it is gone without any record that would allow us to recover it. The past is mostly silence. What survives is the exception, The Americas were the last major inhabited landmass to be reached by modern humans. People arrived in North America by crossing from Siberia to Alaska during the last ice age, when lower sea levels exposed a broad land bridge, a region now submerged beneath the Bering Strait, which geologists call Beringia. The timing of this crossing has been debated for decades. Current evidence suggests the main migration occurred around 15,000 to 20,000 years ago, though some sites in the Americas suggest the possibility of an earlier, smaller presence. From Alaska, people spread southward with remarkable speed, at least by archaeological standards. Within a few thousand years of entering the continent, humans had reached the southern tip of South America, more than 15,000 kilometers away. Archaeological sites in Chile, at a place called Monteverde, show human occupation dating to at least 14,500 years ago, just a few thousand years after the likely crossing from Siberia. The Americas were populated entirely from scratch within what is, in geological terms, an eye blink. The first complex civilization to emerge in the Americas was the Olmec, in the coastal lowlands of what is now southern Mexico, beginning around 1500 BCE. The Olmec built large earthen mounds, created the first writing system in the Americas, developed early versions of the calendar systems that would later be used by the Maya and Aztec, and produced one of the most distinctive artistic traditions of the ancient world, including the famous colossal stone heads, which stand up to 3.4 meters tall and weigh up to 40 tons, each depicting a specific individual with distinctive features. 17 of these heads have been found. Each appears to be a portrait. The faces are specific enough that they must represent real people, almost certainly rulers. Their names are unknown. Their stories are unknown. What survives is their faces, carved in basalt and left in the jungle for 3,000 years. In the highlands of Mexico, the city of Teotihuacan was built beginning around 100 BCE and grew to become one of the largest cities in the world by around 450 CE, with a population estimated between 100,000 and 200,000 people. The Avenue of the Dead, its central axis, is lined with monumental pyramids that still stand. The city's builders are unknown. The civilization that built it left no identified descendants, no deciphered writing, no continuity into later cultures. It was abandoned around 550 CE, possibly due to internal unrest, and its builders remained anonymous even to the Aztec, who encountered its ruins 1,000 years later and named it Teotihuacan, the place where men become gods, because they assumed a city of that scale could only have been built by divine beings. It was built by people who worked, planned, argued, loved their families, watched the same sunset that you will see tomorrow, and are now completely forgotten. In the last 15 years, a new scientific discipline has transformed our understanding of the ancient world. Ancient DNA analysis, the extraction and sequencing of genetic material from archaeological remains, has made it possible to ask questions about ancient populations that no artifact or text could answer. Who were these people? Where did they come from? Who were their relatives? Did they have children? Did their descendants survive? The technique requires careful laboratory conditions to avoid contamination, specialized computational methods to reconstruct degraded genetic sequences, and large databases of modern and ancient genomes for comparison. It is technically demanding, but it works. What ancient DNA has revealed about the deep past has repeatedly surprised archaeologists and overturned assumptions that had seemed well established. The people who built Stonehenge, for instance, were not the ancestors of modern British people. Ancient DNA analysis shows that they were descended from Anatolian farmers who had migrated into Europe around 6,000 years ago. After Stonehenge was built, a new wave of migrants from the Eurasian steppe, the Yamnaya culture, moved into Britain around 4,400 years ago and, within a few generations, had largely replaced the existing population. Modern British people are primarily descended from these later arrivals. The builders of Stonehenge left no direct genetic descendants in Britain. Their monument survived. They did not, or not in any traceable biological line. In Denmark, a woman buried in an oak coffin around 1370 BCE was found, when her genome was analysed, to have been born hundreds of kilometres away from where she was buried. She had dark hair, dark eyes, and genetic ancestry connecting her to southern and eastern Europe. She was buried with extraordinarily fine grave goods: a wool skirt, a decorated belt, a bronze bracelet, suggesting high status in the society that buried her. Her name is unknown. She is called the Egtved girl, after the place where her coffin was found. Ancient DNA has also revealed that migration and replacement were far more common in prehistory than the previous model of gradual cultural diffusion with populations remaining in place had assumed. Major population replacements appear to have occurred across Europe, Asia, and the Americas at various points in prehistory, leaving genetic discontinuities between ancient and modern populations in the same regions. The past was more mobile, more turbulent, and more complicated than anyone guessed. People moved. Populations mixed and replaced each other. Individuals traveled enormous distances. The neat story of peoples rooted in particular places for millennia turns out, again and again, not to hold up to genetic scrutiny. We are all, in the most literal sense, the product of long journeys we don't remember and cannot fully trace. There is one thing that separates the human story from every other species on Earth, and it is not the things we usually point to. Not intelligence. Other animals are intelligent. Not tool use. Other animals use tools. Not social behavior. Many animals are deeply social. Not even language in the strictest sense. Other animals communicate in complex ways. What appears to be uniquely human is the combination. Complex language that allows the transmission of information about things that are not present, not real, and not yet existing. The ability to talk about the past, the future, the hypothetical, to share beliefs, plans, stories, and fictions, to coordinate large numbers of unrelated individuals around shared ideas. The anthropologist Yuval Noah Harari has described this as the capacity for fiction, not in the sense of untruth, but in the sense of shared imaginative constructs. A corporation is a fiction. A nation is a fiction. A religion is a fiction. None of these things exist in physical reality the way a rock or a tree does. They exist because large numbers of people believe in them and act accordingly. And the ability to coordinate behavior through shared belief, through stories, is what allowed humans to cooperate at scales that no other species has achieved. When did language emerge? The honest answer is that we don't know, because language leaves no direct physical trace. The anatomy of the vocal tract and the neural structures for language production are partially preserved in skulls and can be inferred from endocasts. But the relationship between anatomy and language capability is complex. Current estimates range from 100,000 to 300,000 years ago, with some researchers placing the emergence of fully modern language capability much more recently. Fire is a different matter. The control of fire by human ancestors is documented in the archaeological record going back at least 1 million years and possibly further. Fire provided warmth, protection, and cooked food. And cooked food matters more than it might seem. Cooking breaks down the cell walls of plants and partially digests proteins, making far more calories available from the same quantity of food. It has been argued that cooking, and the caloric surplus it provided, was one of the factors that made the dramatic increase in brain size in the Homo lineage energetically possible. The human brain consumes roughly 20% of the body's energy, despite being only 2% of its mass. A brain that large requires a caloric subsidy. Cooking may have helped provide it. Fire also changed the structure of the day. Around a fire at night, there was warmth and light and relative safety. People could stay awake after dark in a way that was otherwise impractical. Studies of present-day hunter-gatherer societies suggest that a significant portion of evening time around the fire is spent in storytelling, sharing narratives about people not present, events not directly witnessed, ideas and explanations, and history. The campfire may be where human culture began. Not in any grand sense, just people, warm, safe for the moment, telling each other stories in the dark. That has not changed. Not really. If you're still with me, here's something to carry into sleep. Every person alive today is descended from every human who lived more than a few thousand years ago and had surviving descendants. This is a mathematical consequence of how genealogy works. As you go back in time, the number of your ancestors doubles with every generation, eventually exceeding the actual number of humans alive, which means that ancestral lines inevitably converge and overlap. By roughly 3,000 to 5,000 years ago, every person alive at that time who has any living descendants at all is an ancestor of every person alive today. Everyone, every culture, every continent. The pharaohs of ancient Egypt, if they have any living descendants, and some almost certainly do, are the ancestors of every person alive today. The hunter-gatherers who painted the walls of Chauvet Cave 36,000 years ago, if their lines survived, are everyone's ancestors. The woman who ground grain in Mesopotamia 8,000 years ago. The man who carved the Lion Man from mammoth ivory. The child who pressed their hand against the rock wall in Sulawesi 45,000 years ago. We are not separate from ancient humans. We are their continuation. There is something in the archaeological record that recurs across every culture, every continent, every period of human history. Something that appears wherever humans have lived long enough to leave a trace. Graves. People burying their dead with care, arranging the body, including objects, marking the place. This behavior appears as far back as 100,000 years ago, possibly further. It is found in ancient Egypt and ancient China and the ancient Americas and prehistoric Europe and every other tradition of human habitation. The specific beliefs that motivated it varied enormously, but the behavior itself, the impulse to mark that a person existed, to treat the end of a life as something that mattered, is as close to a human universal as anything in the archaeological record. People have been mourning their dead, caring for each other, telling stories, making art, and asking large questions for as long as there have been people. The questions haven't been answered, but they haven't stopped being asked either. That continuity is something. It means that what you feel tonight, whatever weight or wonder you're carrying, is not new. It has been felt before by people in circumstances almost unimaginably different from yours in every corner of the world for 300,000 years. You are part of something very long, much longer than any individual life. much longer than any civilization. That's worth knowing before you sleep. So, we've traveled a long way tonight. From the first Homo sapiens in Africa, 300,000 years ago, through the long millennia of the Ice Age, when people painted extraordinary animals on cave walls by firelight and carved mythological creatures from mammoth ivory, across the land bridge into the Americas, and across open water to Australia. Through the slow emergence of agriculture, the first cities rising along river valleys, the invention of writing, first as accounting, then as story. We visited the world's first city, where someone wrote down a story about a king who couldn't accept the death of his friend. We looked at the Great Pyramid, built by workers who ate well and were buried with honor. We considered a civilization of 2 million people whose writing we still cannot read. We looked at ancient DNA and learned that the people who built Stonehenge left no direct descendants in Britain, that the monument outlasted the line. And we ended, as humans always end, around a fire in the dark, telling stories, asking questions that don't have final answers, doing what people have always done when the day is over and the night is quiet. The campfire is older than civilization. The questions asked around it are older than writing. The desire to understand where we came from, what it means to be here, and what, if anything, continues after us, is as old as the species itself. You are part of that story, not a small part. Every person is the entire present endpoint of an unbroken chain of survival stretching back 300,000 years. Every one of your ancestors lived long enough to have children. Every single one. That chain never broke. Not through ice ages, not through migrations across unknown continents, not through the collapse of civilizations, not through anything. It led, eventually, to tonight. To you, here, resting. That's enough. That's more than enough. Good night. Sleep well. And if you're still awake, there's more where this came from. The ocean, the stars, the world of mushrooms. It's all on the channel. Something in there will carry you off eventually.